Rome liked to believe it ruled the world. Marble cities, endless legions, roads that stitched continents together. But power has a shadow, and every empire creates the people who want to watch it bleed. One winter night, the Danube froze solid. Roman soldiers woke to silence. No warning horns, no battle lines. Then the dark itself moved. Shadows poured across the ice. Villages burned before dawn. Rome's borders, drawn in ink and pride, meant nothing to the men who walked over a frozen river. That was the world Rome lived in. A world where enemies did not knock. They waited, they learned, and sometimes they came terrifyingly close to ending everything. First came the man who humiliated Rome without ever wearing a crown. Hannibal Barca was born into 47 BC, raised in the shadow of Roman hatred. As a child, he swore an oath to never be Rome's friend. Decades later, he kept it into 18 BC. He did the unthinkable. He marched an army over the Alps with elephants, through ice, hunger, and death. Rome thought mountains were protection. Hannibal turned them into a road at the Trebia, at Lake Trasimene. At Cannae into 16 BC, tens of thousands of Roman soldiers were cut down in a single day. Rome had never known fear like this. Senators stopped wearing their rings in public so enemies wouldn't recognize them. Mothers were told not to mourn too loudly so panic wouldn't spread. Hannibal stood so close to Rome that the city practiced locking its gates at night. Terrified he might appear at dawn. He never took the city, but he broke the illusion that Rome was untouchable, and that wound never fully healed. Then there was the king who learned Rome's playbook and used it against them. Mithridates VI ruled Pontus from 120 BC to 63 BC. He spoke over 20 languages. He studied poisons until he made himself immune to them. And he understood something Rome did not want to admit. Their allies hated them. In 88 BC, on a single signal, tens of thousands of Romans and Italians living across Asia Minor were slaughtered in one coordinated night of terror. Merchants dragged from their homes. Families cut down in temples where they thought they were safe. Rome did not just lose people. It lost its image as protector. For years, Mithridates humiliated Roman armies, forcing retreats, exposing corrupt generals, proving Rome could be beaten by patience and planning. The war drained Rome's money, its soldiers, and its pride. Even when he finally lost, Rome had to face a bitter truth. Its empire survived not because it was loved, but because it was feared. Then came the thunder from the north. Attila the Hun was born around 406 AD into a world already cracking. Rome was tired. Its legions were stretched thin. Its cities were rich but soft. Attila understood fear like a language. His riders moved faster than news. By the time Roman governors heard he was coming, their fields were already burning. Cities opened their gates without a fight. Gold was piled at his feet just to make him turn away. Roman diplomats bowed to a man they privately called a beast. In 451 AD, Attila marched deep into Roman lands. Villages vanished, roads filled with refugees. Rome survived not because it defeated him cleanly, but because it barely held on long enough for him to move on. The lesson was brutal. The empire no longer controlled who came to its door. It could only beg some enemies to choose another path. But Rome's most dangerous enemies were not always foreign. Alaric I was born around 370 AD and raised inside Rome's world. He served Rome, fought for Rome, learned Rome's weaknesses from the inside. When Rome failed to pay him and treated his people like tools, he turned that knowledge into a weapon. In 410 AD, the unthinkable happened. The city of Rome itself was sacked for 3 days. The Eternal City was looted by men who once called themselves Roman allies. People hid in their homes listening to screams echo through streets that had not seen an enemy. In nearly 800 years, it was not just a military defeat. It was psychological. The world had grown up believing Rome could not fall. That night, that belief died. And then there were the people Rome tried to erase. Jewish zealots were not an empire. They had no vast armies, no endless resources. What they had was conviction. In the 1st century AD, they rose against Roman rule in Judea, knowing the cost. Rome answered with legions, siege engines, and hunger. Jerusalem fell in 70 AD. The temple burned. Smoke turned the sky black. The city was torn apart stone by stone. Rome won the war, but the victory came with a wound that never closed. The rebellion showed that Rome could conquer land, but it could not conquer belief. You can break walls, you can burn cities, but you cannot kill an idea that people are willing to die for. These enemies did not share a language, or a god, or a flag. One marched elephants over mountains. One turned Rome's allies into executioners. One rode like a storm across borders. One walked into Rome itself. One fought knowing defeat was certain. Rome survived them all. But survival is not the same as victory. Every time Rome was nearly destroyed, it changed. It hardened. It compromised. It became more brutal, stronger in some ways, weaker in others. Empires do not collapse in a single moment. They learn how to bleed long before they learn how to fall. And maybe that is the quiet truth history leaves us with. Rome did not fall because of one enemy. It fell because it had too many for too long, and forgot that power is not the same as invincibility.